Greetings, everybody. Pastor Jacob May, Christ Lutheran Church, Gordonville. Great to have you back for another premiere video. Don't worry, Thursday I should be back live. Don't see any issues or challenges with that. God willing, I'll be back with you live. But today, we have a good conversation today centered around the book of Romans, Romans chapter 5. And some of you are thinking, why in the world, Pastor May, are you in the fellowship hall? Really, it's so that I could have enough space to do this. Bam! How'd I do? Did I get close? Maybe. Well, I didn't want to get too close to hit my screen. Well, how about this one? This one might be better. This is my favorite one. Bam! That one was closer, but I missed you. All right. Well, I am having a little fun today for a couple of reasons. One, the question for today, is there something that maybe you did as a child that you couldn't wait to do with your children? Something you could pass on? And it could be toys. Maybe it's sharing of stories. Certain traditions with Christmas. So was there something that you passed on to the next generation that you liked to do or that you loved to do? And yes, I am sharing with you one of the things that I liked to do. So put down in the comment section below if there's something that you passed down, that you wanted to pass down, and you were successful. Maybe it didn't necessarily reach all of your children, but perhaps a couple of the children that it did. And yes, so these Nerf guns, something that I did as a child, loved it, had all kinds of Nerf wars with the neighborhood, right? And they're safe, so don't have anybody come after me here. And my kids, they like to do this too. All of us get together and we just boom around the basement. We like to shoot one another with Nerf guns. No one ever gets injured. Seriously injured. No, nobody ever gets hurt. But we have tons of these things lying around the house. If you come into our basement, you better be careful, especially if one of my children lure you down there, because it's probably a setup where they're going to try to ambush you with little ones like these. We have great big guns, like automatic guns. They look like rifles. We have machine guns. At least that's what they look like. It's great. We love it. We have a great time, and it's fun. And the one that I remember using as a kid was this bow and arrow. And it looked like a cheap plastic toy bow and arrow, but it was a good size, right? And so my brother and I, we would wait for somebody, usually one of the other ones, to come out of the bathroom. And when they were least expected, we'd shoot it at the other one, and we'd see how fast they were, if they were quick enough to catch it or to dodge. And we'd always say, you have to be quick in this house, right? You got to be quick, because you never knew if someone was there to try and get you. And it was always a lot of fun. And that arrow, that bow and arrow, was something that I was thinking about when I heard this story, one that my father-in-law and mother-in-law shared with me. And it was an interesting one. I had not heard it before, but it actually was written in Reader's Digest, and it might have been reported somewhere before that, but I don't think it was. And it said here, I have it on my phone, it was updated June 10th, 2020. So fairly recently it was reported, but this happened, I think, some time ago. But a woman by the name of, I think it was Donna, if I get that correctly, Donna, wrote about a time when she was at home and she was getting ready to grill. So she brought the food out and everything else. All of a sudden she felt a sharp pain in her neck. And it wasn't a Nerf bow and arrow, but an actual practice arrow went into her neck. Now, it wasn't intentionally done, but somebody was shooting close by, and they were shooting the opposite direction. They said a shot to the north, but it ricocheted, and it went south. And hear this. This is pretty amazing what actually happens. How it went over at least 3 fences, through the shrubs, through some oak branches of the oak tree, went in between 2 large hanging baskets, and as she reports, went into my neck. Now you're thinking, whoa, this is crazy. Is she okay? Yes, she was, right? But it's sticking out of her neck. A lot of pain, I'm sure, and she was freaking out. And who wouldn't be? She just got shot in the neck with an arrow. It's crazy. So went to the hospital, did the surgery, and check this out, right? They said that the gap between the jugular vein and the carotid artery is like a quarter of an inch. Carotid artery, excuse me, is about a quarter of an inch. And the tip of the arrow, and it wasn't a pointed one, it was a practice one, so it was like a ball, was actually wider than that. So it shouldn't have gone between the two of them without nicking one. But surprisingly, amazingly, it actually pushed the vein to the side and was able to slide right in between the two of them and just stuck out of her neck without there being any kind of bleeding or anything like that. I mean, this is amazing, the fact that it happened, right? Talk about your luck. And then as a result of that, though, they did the surgery, they removed it, and all of a sudden they did some scans and they realized something very important. There was actually a tumor that they found inside of her brain. As they were doing a scan of the neck, they found that there was a tumor in her brain. It's like, well, wait a second. And though it wasn't cancerous, they said that they'd have to operate on it right away, because if that tumor had crossed and gone to the other side of the brain, it was very likely that she would have died. She probably would have had a stroke, right? Something very serious like that. And so as a result of that arrow going into her neck, they found something else. They found that there was this tumor. So they removed the tumor, and she had to keep going back for tests and scans and the very last one that she was going to have to do that would put her in the all clear, right? They actually found out that she had an aneurysm that was about ready to pop. I mean, talk about your misfortunes, right? You think about all this girl has been through. Now she has to worry about an aneurysm. So she did the surgery. They said it was a tough one. It was very likely that it wouldn't have been successful, but thankfully, she was. I mean, this is absolutely insane when you think about it. She got shot in the neck by an arrow that wasn't pointed at her, and it happened to go through all of those things, and at just the right time, it just, boom, got right inside of her neck, but missed. Then she has this tumor in her brain, and then she has an aneurysm. I mean, this poor girl, all that she goes through. She's had some tough moments. I mean, this isn't in the span of a week, but she's had some tough situations. And as you're looking at this, you're thinking, man, how could she put up with this? This unfortunate luck where all these bad things happen. You'd think that this girl would want to call it quits. And truthfully, some people get really angry and upset at God when these things happen because, hey, why doesn't he step in and make it better? But listen to these words from the book of Romans, right? This is the book of Romans chapter 5, where it talks about Adam and Jesus. This is from verse 12. Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all sinned. I'm going to say that one more time, okay? Let's take this slowly. Sin came into the world through one man. That's Adam, right? Adam sinned. So sin was now in the world, and now as a result of this, all would be affected by it. So death came through sin. Sin came, then death. All sin indeed was in the world because of this one man. You kind of see how this works out? Sin, death, all because of Adam. So everything that we see that happens in this world, all the bad stuff, all the muck, all of the junk, all of the things that we wish we could just get rid of, right? The brokenness of the world happened because of the first sin. Now, if you're one of those individuals that are like, man, I wish I was back in the garden because certainly I would have gotten it right. Well, let's be careful here because we've had a lot of opportunities to get it right each and every day, but we know we can't get it right either. We are imperfect. We mess up. We make mistakes. Not just one sin, but we sin all the time. We have a life filled with sin. Everything about us is tainted too. So when we sin, it's like we are adding death to the world as well. Maybe a great way of looking at it. That just shows how broken we are. But one thing that I found quite interesting about this Donna individual, and this is why she brings it up, is she didn't look at this as being a curse. She actually looked at all the things that she went through as being a blessing. Everybody said, oh, what luck you had to have that go into your neck at just the right moment, at just the right time. But she was pretty insistent on this as everybody was saying this to her. She said, no, it's not that I was lucky at all. Luck has nothing to do with it. God blessed me. She said that arrow that went into my neck was a blessing because it actually saved her twice. I mean, the first time when they see that there was the growth on her brain, and then the second time, as a result of that, they see that there was an aneurysm that she was saved from. So when she looks at all of this, she says, look, I don't see any of this as being bad luck, but she says, I see this as being God's blessings. Now, I don't know Donna. I've never talked to her before, but my guess is that as she looks at the world, she understands that we're in a world that is just stained with sin, where as people, we actually deserve to have a lot of worse things happen to us than what happens. We deserve in our sin to stop breathing right now, to not make it this far. I mean, the scriptures are pretty clear. The wages of sin is death. One sin, one time. That's what we deserve. But see, God doesn't give us that. Why? Well, because of what we find here in the book of Romans. Here what we have after what I just read. The free gift is not like the trespass. For if many died through one man's trespass, much more have the grace of God and the free gift by the grace of the one man, Jesus Christ, abounded for many. So sin came in the world through one man, but grace came into the world through one man, Jesus. And when you think about it, boy, he suffered quite a bit, didn't he? Not just an arrow through the neck, but how about nail through his hand? No, through both hands and his feet. And then the crown of thorns digging into his scalp, into his flesh, causing a little blood, a lot of blood, not to mention the flogging on his back and all of the blood that would have happened as the metal and bone was tearing into his skin, right? I mean, we're talking about a painful circumstance that was happening. And the truth was, he was perfect. This was an individual who was without sin. Talk about your bad luck. But it wasn't bad luck for the Messiah, was it? This was planned out so that he could be a blessing to you. So that while you're going through your struggles or tribulations, or really while you're going through this world at all, you can see the blessings of God that he gives you. His word, the sacrament, but also the people that he surrounds you with. The people who lift you up when you need it most. I mean, have you ever noticed that? A lot of people will say this, that they really wish they didn't have to go through some of their circumstances like the trials of a cancer treatment or the death of a loved one. And no one would wish that on anyone. And we wouldn't wish anyone to get shot in the neck with an arrow. I know Miss Barbara wouldn't have wanted that to happen either. But at the same time, they would all tell you that in most circumstances, while they wish they'd never gone through it, however, they will tell you that they're a lot of times able to see the grace of God through these circumstances, to see how loved they are as family after family brings dinner over to their houses to help them through their time of needs. Or individuals will come and take them to the hospital or doctor's visits while other family members try to work. Or, you know, the gifts are so many that you really can't even count. And if you think about it, as we look back at our life and guessing as we look forward, we've seen the grace of God in many ways too. He hasn't abandoned us into our trials, but he continues to remain with us and to bless us in all kinds of ways that we can't even fathom and imagine, more so than we could possibly realize. But I hope that as you're going through some of those circumstances, that not only will you see God's blessings, but I hope that you can be a blessing to some other individuals who are going through some hardships. As I read through what Miss Barber said, I thought to myself, you know what? She's been through some tough times, way more than me, but it makes me realize that God blesses me too. So as you're going through your treatments, I bet in some way God is going to use you to be a blessing to some other individuals who are going through their treatments too. Or as maybe you're having some rocky moments with your relationships and how you handle it, but I bet that people are going to come to you at some point with some similar struggles, and you're going to be able to say, you know what, it was really tough, but you'll be able to be surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses too. Just as people helped me out, I will be there to help you, and so on and so forth. You see how that works? It's amazing that our God blesses us when we're going through our trials, but He also uses us to be a blessing in so many other lives as well. And that, my friends, I pray, is the kind of thing that we can pass on from one generation to the next. Not just our traditions, not just our fun and games, and not just the sin that so easily entangles us, but the testimony of the grace of God. From Christ to our grandparents and parents, to our children and grandchildren, and so on and so forth. Hey, God's blessings, everybody. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today. I'll be back live. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Thursday at 7 o'clock. God's peace to you and to your household.